I see what you mean.
Yes.
Yes, a very good morning once again, dear viewer. You're still watching the #1 breakfast show in the world, morning at NTV, even when we go for a break. Conversations do not rest. We're already having a conversation with my next guest, who's already here with me in studio, Geoffrey Obo, the program manager, program manager, social justice and strategic litigation. He is the program manager at the Center for Food and Adequate Living Rights. In my hands, you do see the magistrate's manual. It's going to be launched today to talk about the adjudication of adequate living rights cases under the Human Rights Enforcement Act of 2019. And of course, one too many times, you've seen many of the NGOs, civil society, largely focusing on political activism, political justice. Oh, we need to assemble. We need our freedom to assemble. We need to go to the Constitutional Square and picket and protest if we really want to. If there are elements within society, we need to be able to speak about that. Freedom of assembly, that is political justice. Oh, our supporters were arrested. We need to look for them. Many of our supporters were killed during the campaign season. That is political justice. But what about social justice? One too many times, you do not see so many of these NGOs and civil societies focusing on social justice. Access to clean water, access to quality education, access to quality health services in that regard. Yes, that's what we want to talk about. And people like Rebecca Kadaga, the Honorable Rebecca Kadaga, the former Speaker of Parliament back in the day in 2018, when she was in that capacity, she came out and said, please do not focus on political justice alone. Even social justice needs to be undertaken under your wings, because there are so many people out there who cannot speak for themselves, and they are going through these ills on a daily basis. But the good news is that the Center for Food and Adequate Living Rights is breaking the chains, and they are actually trying to do something different. I do have Geoffrey Obo, the program manager, that is social justice and strategic litigation at the Center for Food and Adequate Living Rights. He joins me right now to talk about social justice and the laws involved. Very good morning, Geoffrey Obo.
Good morning.
Kind regards to David Kabanda. He couldn't make it. How is he doing?
He's doing fine. He's our executive director at the Center for Food and Adequate Living Rights.
Indeed, and indeed, we should kick off this conversation by shedding some light on the kind of work that you're doing at the Center for Food and Adequate Living Rights before we talk about social justice.
All right. Yes, the Center for Food and Adequate Living Rights is a not-for-profit organization, and I would basically say we focus on the right to adequate food.
All right.
To adequate food, and also we focus on adequate living rights.
You're right.
These are mainly social and economic rights. Basically, that's the easiest way to put it.
Yes. No politics in there.
Yes, no, yes, they are different from the
only welfare.
Yes, they are different from the category of civil and political rights. And the common social and economic rights we focus on are the right to food, the right to housing,
good housing,
clothing, education, health.
My people in Nansana municipality should be keenly watching this show, because this is largely speaking to my people within Nansana municipality. When you talk about good housing, when you talk about good food, quality food, access to that, adequate living rights and so forth. Nansana municipality, they are grappling. Talk to me.
Yes, so that is basically, those are the areas we work on. And then one of the areas we work on is we have different ways we do this work. We mainly do it through advocacy, social justice and strategic litigation, and also community empowerment, where I work in communities. But basically, coming to the manual that you've shown, we are currently implementing a project. It's called Promoting Sustainable Access to Justice in Communities through legal empowerment and social accountability using the Human Rights Enforcement Act. And
how is that going to be expedited?
Yes, now, in our conceptualization and through the figures of what we have seen, the continuous statistics, we've realized, and it's already on record, that 90% of Ugandans cannot access justice, especially when it comes to these economic and social rights.
What are the impeding factors?
Yes, there are several impeding factors, and that is what this act tries to address, and that we are also seeking to address. The impeding factors, one is that, courts, there is that intimidating thing about courts. Even us lawyers, when we are in court, we are intimidated when we see
you cower.
Yes.
Why?
Even us lawyers, we are intimidated. So you wonder, how does a person,
the local
take it when they are there?
You're telling me even the lawyers cower in the midst of these judges and the magistrates?
Yes. before a session begins, when the judge enters, you have that, you have to stand up, you have that feeling, and it's, so imagine,
you feel like you've lost even before the case.
Yes, and this is all after several years of training, and even what you have to first get your composure before you start talking. So imagine someone who is in the community and comes before that court. Another impeding factor, I would say, is the language of court, English.
Too much jargon being used.
Too much jargon, English and all that. It is difficult for someone in a community.
And when it comes to food and adequate living rights, housing, we're talking about the people at the lower level who cannot have, strength in this language.
Yes, strength in this language. Yes, someone in a community. So another impeding factor maybe are issues of time. People see court as taking very lengthy and all that. The money someone spends to access justice and all that.
Justice delayed is?
Justice denied.
Indeed.
Exactly. So what we are trying to do is to cut off all those factors I've mentioned.
But the funny thing for the viewer and myself as Morning at NTV, because we've been doing some kind of a research on this, you have the Human Rights Enforcement Act of 2019, and you verifiably stated it that all this is inculcated within the Enforcement Act to iron out the problems. So where is the problem? Poor enforcement of the same?
The challenge, the act was enacted in 2019. However, there's not been so much work done on the act, and we want to use it as a tool to promote this social justice. Not only using it in civil and political rights, because when you look, this act was enacted in 2019, but enforcement has been slow. I don't know if it's because of the lockdown, maybe that. But then,
not really. So many other laws have been weakly implemented. I think that has been a weakness that even the NRM government has accepted, that when it comes to implementation, not only on the laws, government programs, just multifaceted. They're finding problems with implementation. Is that where we are at? That enforcement of the same is actually dampening the resolve of these low-lying citizens accessing justice?
Yes, now that is what we are trying to do. We are trying to see that this act is enforced.
How are you going to compel them?
Yes, and one of the ways we've seen to do it, one, we are trying to educate communities to use the act.
I see. To learn what is inculcated in the act.
Take up the opportunities.
So the other challenge is poor access to information.
Yes, access to information, all that. Then we are also working with the communities, but also before the judicial officers, the communities will go before.
Yes, Geoffrey.
If you realize human rights, normally in the news, when you watch NTV here, when you watch the news, what comes to the TV are the high-profile cases.
Yes.
And in the High Court. But then...
And they are usually connected to political justice, political rights, and not socio-justice. Yes,
exactly. But the biggest violation of human rights actually takes place in communities, far away from high courts.
I agree.
Where someone cannot access what? The High Court, very far away. Someone who cannot go... That's where the most human rights violations take place.
Let's break them down so that the viewer down there can understand that they've been going through the same, unaware.
Yes. Yeah, the common violations you'll find in communities, and that we found even in the implementation and all this in our act, the cases we've handled using the act, you'll find widows being thrown out of the house, of their houses of their late husbands.
Rife in northern Uganda.
Yes. And it's very common in several communities. You'll find people fathering and taking care of children, and they are throwing them. They don't want to provide maintenance. You'll find people destroying other people, neighbors. It's because this is an agricultural country.
Indeed.
You'll find
you enter my field and cut down everything.
Cut down everything. Or
land
someone,
conflicts.
or a pastoralist goes and destroys someone's crops. And these are the cases that are very common in...
So these people find it hard to report such cases.
To report such
and
cases.
receive redress.
Yes. How will I come with such a case to the High Court?
So and so's animals ate my crops.
Ate my crops. They destroyed. You maybe stop at the agriculture officer at the district level, who will only make an evaluation, and maybe not. He's not a judicial officer. So now this act.
It might even discourage you and say you do not have evidence that these persons' animals that ate your crops. Do you have any CCTV cameras on your farm to ascertain? So you have impeding blocks even before you get to the court itself, and you're intimidated by the judges.
Yes, there are all those technicalities. But now what we are trying to see is that...
Yes, Geoffrey.
What are the courts that are close to the people? It's the magistrates' courts. The magistrates.
Explain how they'll be able to help.
Yes. How will they be able to help? It has been provided within the act that a person, it tries to cut off the issue of technicality.
Okay.
You can go to court and use any language that you understand. Without a lawyer, you don't need me.
Oh, me as Romeo Busiku, I could go there without a lawyer?
Yes, you can go to a magistrate's court, report to a magistrate your human rights violation that has taken place.
Okay.
In a language that you understand. Is it Luganda?
Okay.
Yes. In Luganda.
Lugbara, Itesot, anything?
Yes.
What happens next?
Yes, after you report to the magistrate, then the magistrate is supposed to help you deduce that in what? Writing, and summon the other party to hear out your case. So, the case is removing out all those technicalities, and it says that you cannot throw away a case based on a technicality, because as lawyers, we love technicalities. We want to end the case before it even starts.
You filed the case beyond the time. We are told you Thursday, it's Friday, please. Technicality. You're disqualified.
Yes, but
those are some of the technicalities.
Yes, but the Act is trying to remove out all those and make it easy for people.
A case shouldn't die if it is genuine.
If it is genuine, you have to listen to it.
Help this person investigate.
Yes, you have to investigate it, listen to it, look into the matter, and decide it in the shortest time possible, because it wants justice to be dispensed very fast. And that is what that training manual is emphasizing.
Because absence of evidence doesn't mean the crime was never perpetrated. It just means you do not have the evidence to confirm that it's person X who did it. But if you help that person, they would actually get some kind of redress.
Yes, but even in communities, you'll actually find community members have evidence. They have witnesses who have seen. That is evidence. But still, this factor of going to court is very challenging for them. How will I go to court? What will I tell the judge?
Language barrier.
Language barrier in our courts. So
is witness intimidation part of the impeding factors that we are talking about? The fact that I've put together my witnesses and person X who violated my firm is so rich, he has too much money. He actually intimidated the witnesses, and now they do not want to testify before the magistrate.
Yes.
Are those some of the issues you grapple with?
Yes, that is common even in the cases that we interact with in the community. You will find sometimes in the community someone has a lot of this and the other person doesn't have anything. But when you look within the Act, it gives actually a magistrate liberty to issue orders to protect a witness. They have several remedies that someone can get which are not there within the conventional law. They were not there, but within this Act you'll find them. For example, a magistrate can order for someone to be arrested if you're intimidating a witness.
Go ahead.
Yes. So that is one of the things, and that is what is contained in that manual. And we want to use this Act to sensitize communities, use it when it comes to addressing these issues of land, addressing issues of where you're thrown out of your house without, because there is the right to use and access your land and to own property, where a community member maybe has you find a woman has like over taking care of 5 children of someone, but the father doesn't want to cater for them. All those issues, we want the magistrates and also the communities to take the opportunities under the Act, because it benefits both. Doesn't tie the magistrates to procedure so much, because magistrates are always hell-bent. They have to follow what is strictly within, but this law gives them that flexibility. But it also helps communities that are far. So today we shall be having the launch with that of the manual.
But do you think we also do have the other problem, absence of a witness protection law to actually help these witnesses who might want to come out and talk about social justice within the country? Is this one of the other impediments you've been talking about?
Yeah.
Protection law.
Yes, we
for the witnesses.
Yes, we need laws to protect witnesses. That is true, especially in communities where a witness is vulnerable, and to someone. You know, sometimes the disparity is too high. This is this, but it's true we need the witness protection law. But still, in the absence of one, we can use the opportunities presented.
The opportunities that we have in the Act, whereby the magistrate has some powers to protect you.
Has some powers, yes, to protect you. Yes.
Can these orders go a long way in protecting this person within the communities from reprisals?
Yes, they can go a long way, because a magistrate can assign some, actually a magistrate has
police officers to come and protect
to protect someone if he sees that the danger is imminent. And we've recently had an interaction with some magistrates, and they've made those orders actually in communities. they've made those orders based on to protect a community member who is threatened. Yes.
Why would the viewer who is watching Morning at NTV be interested in this manual? We're talking about the Justice Actors Manual. Why would they be interested?
Yes, I would encourage the viewer who is watching this morning talk show to mainly be interested in the manual because, one, you may never know when your right is going to be violated or your right has been violated. So you should not only be interested in the manual but also in the act. Seek out for the easy opportunities that are there. Even if you may not have money to access your justice because you can't afford a lawyer, use the opportunity presented under the act to go and access justice, especially if you have a magistrate's court near you. Yes, you have you have a way out to protect your rights.
Indeed.
Yeah, and to make sure that your rights are guaranteed.
Geoffrey, here is the $64,000 question. How can one use laws to actually achieve social justice in this country?
Yes, one can use laws in several ways to protect, to promote social justice. To ensure, one, we've talked about the Human Rights Enforcement Act.
It's one of them.
It's one of them.
Are there any others?
Use the easy technicalities. We want to ensure that it's sustainable, that even when SafeRoute is not there in the community to help a community member to go to court, you can take yourself. We don't have to always be there. And there are several other laws that promote social justice that you can use. The Land Act, there's the Children's Act, the Domestic Violence Act. There are so many laws that have been enacted to protect social justice.
That is Geoffrey Obo, Program Manager, Social Justice and Strategic Litigation. Thank you so much for having made the time to speak to us. Why? Because many of our citizens have been suffering in silence. They just didn't know there was this kind of redress when it comes to some of these small, seemingly petty issues that might not make it to court. But then, indeed, there is redress in the court system. Thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you for hosting.
Kind regards to Mr. David Kawanda.
Right.
And indeed, he works for the Center for Food and Adequate Living Rights. You're watching Morning at NTV. My name is Romy Busiku. Elijah Chitaka is already here. We'll be right back.